My name is Gavin Evans, and this is my review of Indiana Jones in the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. And this will be a spoiler-filled review, so there's your warning. But I'll never forget the first time I saw this movie. See, I live in a small town, and the theater here used to be very sketchy and just a very ran down kind of theater, and it was opening night. It was a midnight screening. Maybe my first midnight screening. No, Spider-Man 3 was my first midnight screening, but this was my second. And, seeing a movie, the first opportunity you get was such a big deal back then. And the movie's playing and playing, but at about the halfway mark, something malfunctioned with the projector. So what happened was the top half of the screen went to the bottom half, and the bottom half went to the top half. I left the theater to go look for any staff members, but everybody left, and we were just stuck watching the movie this way, which is very funny looking back on it. But this movie gets a lot of hate. People call it one of the worst movies ever made, and I honestly think that is just an absurd exaggeration. I personally enjoy this movie. If you don't, I get it, but to call it one of the worst movies ever made, no, just give me a break. Let's begin talking about just the story in general, and I do like the way this movie begins. I think the fight scene in the warehouse is very exciting, and I love how it evolves, because then him and that one dude are fighting as the clock is ticking down and the rocket takes off. I love that sequence. And then Indiana goes to the nuke town, and it's fine. We'll touch on that scene a bit more later. But then we get this scene where Indiana and Mutt meet, and they're talking, and Mutt is explaining all this stuff to him, and Indiana realizes they're getting watched. So in order to escape those two guys, he kind of breaks out a fight between the greasers and the jocks, and I think this scene is just perfection. It's really funny, and you can just see, the passions that Spielberg has for West Side Story in this one moment. And you get this excellent chase scene afterwards, which is also very exciting. They then go to Peru, which just captures that adventure vibe I love about this franchise so much. And they're at this temple, they're going through these caves, and there's scorpions, and there's trick doors, and I just love all of this. I really do. We then go to this place where they get trapped in this dry sand pit and they're sinking, and this is a really fun sequence. You get this Amazon chase, which is for the most part excellent, for the most part. And you get this fight where they're surrounded by these fire ants, which I really enjoy this element of the movies where they go a bit darker, where they get a bit more gruesome, even with a lack of blood, but I do enjoy that. And I do like some of the ideas of the last act. The fact that all these ancient gods that these Mayans and other tribes used to worship were just aliens. It's a fascinating idea. The fact this movie came out after War of the Worlds, I wonder if Spielberg came up with this idea when he made War of the Worlds and then he made this movie, because I do like it. I do like the ideas. I really do. And I do love the last shot of Mutt picking up Indiana's hat, and Indiana then grabs it and is just like, nope, it's the perfect psych to the audience. So I love all that. And for the most part, this movie is pretty well directed. It's 2 hours long, and it just flies by, perfectly paced. And Steven Spielberg does a great job filming the action sequences. The music is really good. It captures that adventure vibe so perfectly, and the production design is phenomenal. The cast is for the most part really good. Harrison Ford is great. He carries this movie perfectly, but I hate it when Mutt asks him, "So, you're a teacher?" And he says part-time. Just his delivery is so flat, and I know Red Letter Media touched on this, but it's always driven me nuts. Shia LaBeouf, I don't think this is his best work, but he's still very entertaining on screen. Karen Allen is actually kind of bad here. Her relationship with Indiana is very forced. Like, he says one line to her about how the other girls want her and now everything's pitch perfect between them. Cate Blanchett does the best with what she's given to work with, but the villain is still pretty lackluster. John Hurt does a good job, and Ray Winstone is good. I like his performance, but his character is written terribly. So there's still plenty to enjoy in this movie. I like it enough while watching it, but I do got some issues. And let's begin talking about the obvious ones. Like, I can forgive Indiana surviving a nuclear blast somehow in a fridge, but when that fridge hits the ground, you're just like, no, he's dead. The suspension of disbelief required is a bit too much, but you know what, let's say I forgive it. Okay, it's absurd, it's stupid, but let's say, okay, Indiana survives a plane crash in the second movie by using a lifeboat. Okay, maybe I can forgive this one ridiculous moment. They then later drive off a cliff onto a tree and land perfectly in the river. Really? Like, that is a really absurd, stupid moment. But let's say I can forgive it. They then fall off 3 giant waterfalls and end up okay. Really? You're testing me here. The suspension of disbelief is a bit too much, but let's say I can forgive it. Okay? All of that are issues with the movie. It takes me out of it. But what I can't forgive is Mutt swimming with the monkeys in the Amazon jungle. When that happens, it is just far too stupid, far too ridiculous, far too much suspension of disbelief required. Like, he really catches up with them. Really? And it just takes me right out of the movie, and it's said, I don't understand how this scene made it in. Like, how did they see this and was just like, yeah, let's keep it in. Really? And I think less is more. I mentioned that I liked the idea of aliens, but once we see that terrible CGI in the UF taking off, it's like all intrigue, all mystery is now gone, and I think they should have held back and just imply certain things, but not show them visually. I also thought that once again the relationship between Marion and Indiana's really off, but I really hate how Indiana asks Mutt what his mom's name is, and he says Marion, and then he's shocked when his mom is Marion. It's just some really bad writing. And even though this movie is mostly well directed, I hate the look of it. It is an ugly movie in so many sequences. It is so overly lit. I don't know if it's the backlight or what, but it is just so bright that it looks really fake in moments. Especially in the last scene in the church. And also, I feel like these villains lack the same sort of presence as the other villains. So, overall, I enjoyed this movie enough. You got some really fun and exciting moments. It captures that adventure vibe perfectly. I still love the character of Indiana, and I like some of the ideas they're going for. It is held back by some terrible writing here and there, and not everything works about it for me, but I still think it's far better than what most people make it out to be, and it's enjoyable enough. I'll give Indiana Jones in the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull a 6 out of 10. Okay, have you seen Indiana Jones in the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull? What did you think? Let me know in the comments down below. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Stay tuned for some more videos soon, and Gavin